lesson number 189 is, I feel the love of God within me now. You're never going to feel God or love anywhere other than within you. God is love. God created us so that we would be the presence of love extending itself, giving love so that we could receive it. And when we show up as different people, and there are different things out there for us to enjoy, different kinds of foods, different kinds of fruit, different kinds of places to go, the mountains, the beaches, the deserts, so many different things, because God is infinite in its creative abilities. We were created to be bringers of love to all that God created. Why? For the sheer joy of extending a reverence. I see God. Wow, look, you look amazing as a sunset. God, you look amazing as a flower. God, you look amazing as that butterfly. Look at that incredible, shape of that beautiful mountain. We were created to behold what is God in all that is before us. But when our mind descended into hell, we got trained out of that. And we began to decide what's right and wrong, what's good and bad. And our work is to decide that the love of God is inside of us. So if God is love and we can only feel it inside, the work is to go inside and reclaim our relationship with God. Isn't this beautiful?
Yes.
This God that we've been taught was out there really has been inside of us all along, but we couldn't feel it because we blocked the presence of God by thinking that we needed to do what other people outside of us told us to do. And then we got trained into chasing things outside of ourselves to make us happy. And no matter how many things we caught and we found and we acquired and we accumulated, it didn't leave us feeling happy for long. Because the minute you got it, the happiness turned into worry. Because we have been trained into getting, but then the ego shifts into protecting. And God forbid you lose that thing that you wanted. You lose the promotion, you lose the child, you lose the lover, you lose the ring, you lose the money. Then all of a sudden, you're in misery. But if you know the laws of God, who you are, infinite being, who is eternal, will experience the temporary things that come and go with peace in your heart. And as much as I adored that man, I had a lot of peace in my heart when I realized he is in such a story. For me to attempt to get him out, and believe me, I did. My ego got really busy trying to get him to come out of that story until I realized that I needed to practice forgiveness. Not only forgiveness of him being in that story, but I needed to forgive myself for judging him for being in a story. And boy, did that take time. But once I came to that peaceful place, it was letting him go was what needed to happen, because there was no way to get oil and water to come together. When there's a decision that you are the enemy and that person doesn't want to change their mind, you cannot come together. It's impossible. So things did what needed to happen, and off we went on our separate ways. And what is so beautiful is that by listening to the voice for God inside of me, the lessons that I picked up from that were beautiful lessons that had me see things about me that I will do differently in another relationship. So I was releasing density by observing what was happening there through that practice of forgiveness. The last lesson I put on here is lesson 200. There is no peace except the peace of God. Until we realize that God is the source of peace, because God is the source of oneness, until we become undivided inside, we will never be able to find peace outside of ourselves. It is just not possible, because if we move to what is separate, we go into ego and we play the game of duality. And this is what the Master of Love came to teach us 2,000 years ago. That he was God, and so are we. The presence of God expresses itself through each one of us. Now, none of us is all that God is, but every one of us is made of nothing but God. And we have to come to the place that we accept that our role on this planet is to be a lover of what is. God is love. We are supposed to love what is. Now, this journey is a journey of looking at how we descended and began to hate on things. The Course says the ego creates special love and special hate. I love you. What can I get from you? Once I can't get that from you, you become the person that I hate. You become the car that I hate, the job that I hate. I'm sure everybody here has stories of the job that they loved and then how they hated it. The boss that was so amazing and then they hated it. Because the mind begins to focus on what it's going to judge, in time creates a very solid story. And it begins to create unforgiving thoughts that are going to block our ability to forgive. So we blame that one and we move on to the next job. We blame that spouse and we move on to the next one. And the process continues. Unsolved. That's hell. Any questions or comments?
Oh.
Yes. Do you mind coming up here?
Can I do it here?
Speak loudly so everybody can hear you.
Yeah. I have I have a question regarding the projection. Like, what's the like to me, I think there is a subtle difference between being projected upon, like somebody's projected upon you, whatever their fearful thoughts are. And then there is also the one where there's a mirror about your fearful thoughts in that person. And how do you get to discern the difference?
And that's a really good question. So how do you discern the difference between projection and a mirror? Well, they're actually the same thing. Because whatever I notice in another person is I'm seeing in the mirror what I am projecting. So if I see them as hateful, there is hate in me that I'm projecting, and they're just mirroring that hate back to me. And then if it's something that I've already forgiven in myself, then it's just awareness. I'm aware, oh, they're being, they're operating from their ego side. They're being hateful operating from that side. So it just becomes information. But the Course is very clear in that we are all one. So when we begin to look at the other person as always a reflection, a mirror of my projection, then all the work is done in here to clean it up. And when somebody is operating, let's say, hateful, we don't have to take it on as it having a meaning about us. We don't have to react to it. We don't have to defend ourselves. We recognize that person is having thoughts because they have whatever thoughts they have in their mind. I don't have to accept them. If I go to a quick place of forgiving, I forgive myself for anything that would have me think that they are wrong about what they're doing. I forgive them for they don't know what they're doing while they're operating from their ego. But it's a very good question, because those two things, although they seem like they're different, they're really one and the same. Depending on where you are on this journey, things begin to really simplify. In the beginning, it's different things that we're looking at as we're refining and discovering all of the ways that we have hidden ourselves from our truth. Does that help? Might feel more confusing, but...
Well, I just feel like, okay, if you have a child, right, and the child is pure and innocent, and it just was born, right, and somebody's yelling at him, right, or whatever it is, like the innocent kid is not projecting anything. Like, it's not that he has anger inside or whatever, right? Like the kid is just a kid, it's a pure innocent dude, that came out, person is yelling, right? So that person is having the fearful thoughts, but the kid is really not making that happen.
So now we're getting into something that's much deeper.
Yeah.
Because every single one of us is bringing karma that we're working through lifetime after lifetime, and we're working it out until we all ascend. So a child that may appear innocent because they're just a little 1, 2, 3-year-old may have karma that they're working out. And that person that is being mean and hateful to them is an opportunity for, even as a child, to not close our heart, to stay open. And this is where conscious parenting comes in. And we teach our children, what other people think about you has nothing to do with you. But if it begins to affect us, it's because we're going to be developing a story that then keeps us separate. There's mean people over there and nice over here. Well, when we're separating ourselves from others, we have gone into the realm of duality. So that's that's like in the advanced class. Because for
private session.
Private session, because to really move into that, we have to understand that this world is, we come to this world, we have this physical experience to learn forgiveness. That's the whole purpose. The Course is very clear that we come here to forgive, having come here to deny God. And lifetime after lifetime, we've got the karma, the density that's in the planet that we have to work through. So that's why it takes, we had a master teacher 2,000 years ago teach us everything we needed to know, and 2,000 years later, we're still not forgiving others for they know not what they're doing. So we've got to learn that. Yes.
I think you've answered my question.
Oh, good.
I think. Okay, so my personal experience, I'm living with someone who happens to be bipolar. So, bipolar disorder, they're either manic or they're depressed, whichever. And so when she gets manic, it's like, whoo! And I'm usually the recipient of that mania. Mm-hmm. So then I think of projection, and so what am I bringing this to me when I'm trying to be very woo-woo, all about peace and love and whatever, and she comes up with this stuff. So what am I looking at is my question. What am I really looking at? Is it me that I'm looking at?
You are. So manic bipolar is polar opposites. Mm-hmm. So when you are believing that she is a human, you're in your bipolar state focusing on her as a human and not focusing as the soul that she is. So we have those two polar opposites of looking at things. So when you're being love, joy, and peace, do you lose your serenity when she loses hers? Have you ever?
Yes.
Okay, so when you lose your serenity, you're being bipolar. You're accepting your ego side, and now your ego side feels righteous in treating her as what she's not.
Work to do.
But so let me give you a tip to make the work a little easier. And while we're in our human density, we are going to be experiencing, depending on where we are on the journey, we're at different levels of density. And there are many cases that we need the medication, that we need the things that help us deal with that's going on. But as we clean up our mind, we lighten up. We become the light of the world. So you just chose to be in a very fast track training to be the light of the world. So the more you decide to see her as one, the more you are going to be healing your own bipolar state inside, your division inside. But you're only going to heal that if you choose to stand for only one way. And when you choose to stand for the law of God, and you choose to only love her, when she is in her state, love on her. And when she's going berserk, then use that as an opportunity for you to practice love. So thank her every time she goes into her moods and say to her, you're giving me so much practice. Thank you so much. This is really helping me see that I don't want to be divided. I want to be united internally. I only want to be one. So thank her for helping you really practice.
Did you say that to your son, Spencer?
Oh my gosh, all the time. All the time. It was like, son, thank you for what you're doing because you're teaching me so much. And to Ken, I used to tell Ken, thank you. But when I would say to Ken, thank you for being such a wonderful teacher, he couldn't receive that. He just thought it was being condescending. But I was so sincere. Oh my gosh, you're breaking my heart open in a bigger way. But your friend, yes, she's helping you. Because I don't know if you remember last week, one of the lessons that I had put up here, I don't remember the number, but everything is a lesson God would have me learn. Yes. Am I seeing everything as love, or am I still coming from fear? And we are going to have levels of fear. As you move down these rungs, as we release density, you can do a lot of work, but see how much is left. And everything is another opportunity. Everything is another opportunity to clear it up. Thank you. Yes.
All right, so what I'm seeing through this is I recognize that there's part of my ego that tells me I'm special.
Yes.
How do I release it? What do I replace that with in my thinking if I want to step? If I'm one with God, I'm not special?
Well, you're equal. You want to move to neutral. So when you think that you're special, give me what flavor special do you think you are?
Flavor of special is I've got an education. I've got a college degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree.
And so when you are with other people, you feel you're more superior, because that's what specialness usually does. It makes us feel more superior.
Yes,
or
I
more
do
lesser.
carry that, yes.
Okay, so to switch that, really, really keep it simple, is go to the place of gratitude for the education, and just go to the place that you can say, it's so wonderful that my mind is so, I was able to train it and be able to have something that I can do that not everybody else can do. And you'll move yourself off of specialness when you begin to have gratitude for this gift that you have that you get to share. Because then as you give of that gift, you're receiving the joy of it, but as you're giving it to get something, because it's going to be special, you're creating that sense of separation, and you're giving to get instead of giving to receive the pure joy of giving it. So bless your gift and be grateful sharing it, then the specialness will begin to dissipate.
Thank you.
Sure, of course. That's a great question. I mean, they're all great questions.